minimally in their welfare. There is a troubling rush to exploit them for their skin in traditional medicines, leaving vulnerable communities, suffering women and children, and fragile agricultural systems to bear the consequences. Ladies and gentlemen, our gathering in Dar es Salaam in 2022 marked a pivotal moment of awakening. The evidence presented highlighted the existential threat to the donkey species and the dire implications for local livelihoods, emphasizing the urgent need to preserve and promote their welfare. The Specialized Technical Committee on Agricultural Development, Water and Environment of the African Union, as well as the African Union Summit of Heads of States in February 2024, has endorsed and directed AU-IBAR for the development of the Pan-African strategy for donkey species, and has endorsed for the Commission to lead a common position and moratorium on exploitation of donkey through trafficking, illegal cross-border trade to slaughter for their skins. And since February 2024, I am pleased to report that numerous African governments have initiated efforts to preserve their donkey populations, implementing legislative, bans, and administrative actions. I commend Botswana, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Senegal, Tanzania, Uganda, Togo, and Kenya for their commendable efforts. Many countries have also steadfastly refused to permit the slaughter of donkey for their skin trade. Ladies and gentlemen, the next 2 days will feature critical discussions about the roles, challenges, and contributions of donkey, along with actions being taken to protect them from exploitation. As you engage in these discussions, I encourage you to reflect on the following key questions. First, how can your country ensure that donkeys are included in national policies and livestock development strategies? Second, what practical steps can be taken at national and local levels to prevent illegal donkey slaughter and enforce the endorsed moratorium on their exploitation? Third, how can we develop data systems that accurately capture the contributions of donkeys to the rural livelihoods and inform the policies at national level? What role can your country play in creating welfare-friendly value chains and supporting sustainable breeding programs for donkeys? The Commission eagerly anticipates the resolution that will arise from this conference. I assure you that our team, led by the Director of AU-IBAR and our partners in the International Coalition for Working Equids, is committed to preserving donkeys as vital animal resources in Africa. AU-IBAR has spearheaded the development of the Pan-African strategy for the preservation, welfare, and sustainable utilization of donkeys. This strategy has been crafted through consultative process involving various stakeholders, and it has been presented. We will present it for validation at this meeting before submitting it to the STC RDWI and the heads of states. Once validated and endorsed, the strategy will pave the way for the African Union member states to support Africa Donkey Welfare and Preservation Program. We need everyone on board to safeguard Africa's invisible workforce, the donkey. The African Union's Agenda 2063 envisions a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. And the preservation of our donkey populations is integral to this vision. These animals are not merely livestock, but partners in Africa's journey towards food security and poverty alleviation. I'm confident that this conference will yield actionable outcomes, strengthen our resolve, and chart a path towards a future where Africa's donkeys population thrive alongside prosperous communities. I have a call for action to all of you. To our government representatives, I urge you to return home with a renewed commitment to implementing the protective policies for donkeys. And to the researchers and academics, continue your vital work in conservation, breeding, and reproduction of donkeys. To civil society partners, sustain your advocacy efforts. And to our international colleagues, we welcome your support, emphasizing that action solutions must lead in addressing Africans' challenges. In closing, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our host, the government of Cote d'Ivoire, for their warm hospitality and commitment to this cause. And I thank the International Coalition for Working Equities for their support and partnership to achieve this conference. And I thank all the delegates for your presence and contributions. Together we will ensure that Africa's commitment to donkeys preservation translates from policy to practice and from promises to reality. I thank you and I wish you fruitful deliberations.
Merci beaucoup, Excellence, pour ces mots inspirants qui nous recentrent sur l'essentiel, la vision, la coordination et l'action collective au service du bien-être animal et du développement durable. Nous allons maintenant entrer dans le vif de la session 2 avec une série de présentations techniques ancrées dans la réalité du terrain et portées par des experts du continent. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for those inspiring words which bring us back to what matters the most: vision, coordination, and collective action in support of animal welfare and sustainable development. We now move into the core of session 2 with a series of technical presentations grounded in field realities and led by experts from across the continent. Pour ouvrir cette session, une voix bien connue du réseau AU-IPAR, elle travaille à croiser les données et les réalités de terrain pour dessiner une image claire de la situation. Merci d'accueillir le docteur Eline Jerry pour une vue d'ensemble du statut des aides en Afrique. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Eline Jerry.
See, next.
Good afternoon once again. My name is Dr. Eline Jerry. I'm a welfare expert for AU-IPAR, and I will be taking you through an overview of the donkey status in Africa. This study was carried out by AU-IPAR across the year 2022, and it looks at 25 countries out of the 54 member states. And these questionnaires were targeted looking at working animals, camels, mules, horses, and donkeys. But for this particular reason, I will be focusing on the results that we found on the donkeys. Next. Why is this important? And why are we here? We see that approximately over 600 million people depend on working animals, donkeys being one of them, sustaining livelihoods, supporting women, children, and our economies. But we still see that these donkeys remain invisible in our policy frameworks. There's little data that exists to show us the real population, how they're producing, the cycles, and their welfare is rarely integrated into the veterinary services and practices. Next. Looking at the donkey population, the map here will show you the countries in green. So a lot of the data that we got was from the West African countries, East African countries, and a few of Southern African countries. And
25 countries, making up 36% of the working animals surveyed. While this does not show the clear and true picture of our donkey population in Africa, it gives us a bit of an insight. And the next slide shows some of the countries that had high populations, including Chad, having 31% of the populations, including some of the wild African donkeys. This shows us that there's a wide disparity. While it shows us that we have 13 million donkeys, or approximately, in these 25 countries, the distribution is not equal and not even. And while the data is limited, it shows that some countries are carrying more, the bulk of the population than others. So it is important to know where these donkeys are located so that we can be able to target our efforts. Next. Looking at the donkey herd reproduction in Africa, some countries had higher reproduction rates of donkeys, with 3, Sao Tome one of them. Other countries gave a reproductive rate of 1, as listed there. A lot of other countries showed 0 reproductive rates. This shows us that there's a need for targeted interventions in supporting reproduction activities and breeding programs in our donkeys, especially considering that we are having a declining population. When we look at the donkey herd and distribution by sex in the next slide, we see that Africa's donkey distribution is quite balanced, with a ratio of almost 1-to-1, 51% of males and 48.7 female. And this shows us that both male and females are being used in the regular tasks, the labor, the plowing, the carrying of water, showing that both sexes have equal endurance. And also this reflects culturally and economic practices in Africa, where we can see both sexes being used for work almost equally. When we look at the veterinary doctors' representation in the African countries, the study showed that these countries had about 11,120 veterinary doctors. The number may look great, but if we match it to the countries and if we match it to also other countries that haven't been able to show the data, we see that there's a big imbalance. And veterinary professionals are very important for disease prevention, control, treatment, and also our awareness and passing awareness on animal welfare in our donkeys. Further, if you look at the next slide, it shows about the vet professionals. 20,000 vet professionals. Vet professionals are not only important, but they are very essential in areas where not all veterinary professionals can be able to access. And while we can see there's a high number, it still shows that we need more coverage and there's need for more distribution. The country distribution, or the urban versus rural distribution of these professionals, shows us that, in the next slide please, urban areas make, veterinary doctors are 53%. So we see more professionals in the urban settings, also for paraprofessionals as well. Only 21% of these veterinarians are found in rural areas, with 78 of the paraprofessionals in these rural areas. And while we are seeing a higher number of paraprofessionals, this actually shows us the importance of paraprofessionals in the rural setting and how we can be able to support and enable veterinary care in these marginalized communities by use of paraprofessionals. However, the imbalance between the paraprofessionals and the vet professionals raises a few concerns about the quality and the consistency of the care in these rural situations. So there is need for quite a balance so that we can be able to have a harmonized way and a more quality, a higher consistency of how we treat our donkeys. When we look at our what the situation looks like currently. When we look at the key diseases affecting the donkeys, several diseases were noted to impair their health. Most of them are tetanus, African horse sickness, anthrax, equine influenza, H3N8, which has also been reported to cause several mortalities in donkeys and horses in Central and West Africa. Other common issues in the donkeys were found were wounds and saddle sores, and these often occur because of maltreatment, overloading, poorly placed saddles, ill-fitted harnesses, and these are main issues of welfare, issues of management, issues that we can be able to sensitize our donkey owners on how to do better and improve their practices. Other health concerns that we saw in the study and diseases that are of secondary importance include rabies, trypanosomiasis, helminths, which are just parasitic worms often occurring due to poor sanitation, skin diseases and scabies, which is also exacerbated by the wounds and a lot of the ill-fitting, a lot of the whipping that the donkeys experience. If we look at the system gaps, we can see that there's limited vaccination and limited emergency responses offered to our donkeys, especially in the rural areas. It also shows us the importance of why we need to support our paraprofessionals, our community animal health workers, and the need to empower our veterinary professionals. And there is need to scale up our vaccination for our donkeys, increase information and education on hygiene to prevent helminths, to prevent wounds, and also support emergency vet services to improve outreach in high-risk areas and undeserved regions that need this support. Coming to the conclusion, this case study shows not only that we depend on our donkeys to develop our countries, to develop our economies, to develop our societies, they are also very essential for our rural economies and for us to be able to empower our rural communities, to empower our women and empower our children. We also need to support our donkeys and we need to support their welfare and health. So our call to action is to mainstream donkeys in livestock and agricultural strategies, strengthen veterinary services, especially in the rural regions while supporting our professionals, investing in data systems that can be able to record disease occurrences, and this way we can be able to enhance our disease prevention and also enhance community education on how best can our communities take care of their donkeys, how best can they improve their welfare. We can all agree that good welfare in our donkeys will also promote good health and allow them to thrive. It is also urgent and necessary for us to be able to foster cross-country and cross-regional collaborations to be able to tackle the current illegal donkey skin trade that we have. And not just that, improve welfare and health of our donkeys. These are all essential for the preservation and sustainability of our donkeys. And with that short overview of the status of our donkeys in Africa, I would like to say thank you.
Merci docteur. Thank you doctor. Nous poursuivons avec une réalité trop souvent invisible, les maladies, les blessures, les souffrances silencieuses des ânes dans leur quotidien. Docteur Kerma Viral, vétérinaire terrain chez Groupe Ethiopia, nous partagera son expérience sur les conséquences de la douleur animale sur les communautés humaines. Merci de l'accueillir.
Thank you very much. So my name is Gilma. I am a PhD researcher at University of Liverpool, and my research focuses on the socio-economic context of funded and supported by Brook, and it's also supported by INRI. And for the coming 15 minutes, I'll share some of the results of our researches. We will talk about how donkey contributes to the livelihood of Ethiopia and how disease and injuries affect their productivity and income. Next slide, please. So majority, approximately 83% of Ethiopian population lives in a rural area and depend on smallholder livestock, smallholder subsistence farming, which used animal for functioning of this smallholder subsistence farming. So despite the good progress in Ethiopia, the country is still ranking among the low-income country. So the road network is poor. So we used animal power very much, and donkeys are one of these working animal. So Ethiopia is the home for the largest donkey population in the world. Approximately 10.7 million donkeys lives in Ethiopia, which is the first which account for 20% of global donkey population of donkeys. So over 7.5 million households, rural households own donkey to assist with transport water, transport firewood, and transport animals feed, and to support the agriculture. So given or consider the family size of Ethiopia, which is 5, almost 40 million people directly depend on the donkey support. Next slide, please. So despite their high population and their contribution to the livelihood and the economy of the country, donkeys in Ethiopia are undervalued, underappreciated, and there is lack of recognition in the country, so that their welfare and health is poor and overlooked, and they are excluded from the livestock development programs and policies, so that there is insufficient investment in the health and welfare of and the management of this animal. So our research, the aim of our research is to evaluate the socio-economic contribution of donkey that brings to the household, communities, the economy of Ethiopia, and also we evaluate or estimate the economic losses caused by injury and diseases. Next slide, please. So this research is a part of Global Burden of Animal Disease Program, which is a research program to aim to quantify the burden of animal disease from the local to the global level in all species of animal, including the terrestrial animal and the aquatic animal. So these GBADs, or Global Burden of Animal Diseases, are the animal health economists based at the University of Liverpool, working to transform how economics are used. So traditionally, economics would be used reactively to support or to back up strategies to specific disease outbreaks, but they are trying to move towards using economics to understand animal health within the global socio-economic context. So this will help to the decision maker in order to invest for the biggest impact for the animal, people, and environment. So there are a number of 5 collaborators working with GBADs. WOHA is one of the partners, and the project was seed funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the FC. Next slide, please. So for our study, we have used the GBADS analytical framework. We started with understanding the population, estimating the value of the donkey and the output from these animals, and how diseases affect this animal and who in the community affected by this animal. So for that, there was huge data gap. So we collected the data from 475 household surveys, focus group discussion, key informant interviews, and expert stations in 3 representative districts of Ethiopia. So after our data collection, for evaluating the profitability of donkey ownership, we use the enterprise budget analysis using the dynamic herd simulation model, and we estimated the unpaid service of donkey in terms of the money saved and the hours of human labor saved. And for estimation of the money saved, we have used the alternative transport power from our non-donkey owning households, and we have used for estimation of our labor saved, we have our refugee scheme for interviews compare the use of donkey with family labor irrespective of age and sex. So, and we parameterized our model from our household survey scheme for interviews and refugees. So the result shows that donkey contributes to the food security, sustainable livelihood, and household resilience, and donkey also used for empowering women. So from our enterprise budget analysis, donkey contributes to around 567 USD per year. This equates to 21% of the average annual income of the donkey owning households. So this contribution is through their using donkey for their own domestic homestead activities and for the paid workers. But the contribution from the unpaid domestic activities is higher than the paid activities of donkey. And donkey also enable households to save costs and reallocate those resources to essential needs. For example, households who use their donkeys for transporting water, they save each household is around 126 USD per year. So according to the International Labour Office, so this amount, 126 per USD, can be used for the families of 5 for 34 days, or it can cover health and education for 16 months for the household. So that this financial savings generated by donkey is important for household resilience. Similar to the homestead activities, we have also estimated the use of donkey for the agriculture in terms of the money saved and human labor saved. So donkeys assist us with every stage of crop production, starting from the soil preparation to the harvest, except mowing. So families who use their donkeys for supporting their agricultural crop production, they save around 195 USD, and which is equivalent to 90% of the crop revenue from revenue of the crop sale, 90% of the revenue from the crop sale. This makes the agriculture more affordable and profitable, and they are also important for transporting water and feed for the other animal, for the other livestock. The other thing is donkeys in Ethiopia, they allow farmers to involve or to participate in local cooperative arrangements. In Ethiopia, we have a system called the DEVO, in which communities put their resources during the critical periods, so that donkeys allow the farmers to participate in these local cooperative arrangements, so that the support from these arrangements and the savings help us to the household to be resilient. So this is the saying from one of the participants in our refugee league. So he said, donkey is daily assistance. If the donkey is sick, our farming will be affected and we will miss the season, and the income reduction as the loss we can transport to the market will be reduced. So the donkeys are very important for the agriculture, or to support the agriculture. So next slide, please. So the other key findings of our study is the estimation of donkey time saving benefits, particularly for domestic activity and agriculture. So donkey reduce the time spent on the time spent on the labor-intensive activities like collecting water and firewood. So householders who use their donkeys for transporting this can save around 17 hours per week. This is particularly important and impactful for girls and women who traditionally bear the labor-intensive activity of the household. So this is important for women and girls. So they can use these saved hours for carrying their children to go to the school, skill development, and income generating activities.
C'est parallèlement que j'affiche.
So this will make women
Faut que tu finisses
to
d'abord.
be
Je vais vous montrer.
Non, non, j'ai le même fichier, j'ai le même, j'ai accès au lien.
Quand il
Ça,
va
c'est pas
faire-
l'intitulé, celui-là, je vous
Je
rappelle.
peux pas savoir, tout est en anglais. Quand il va finir, vous venez, je vais vous montrer.
Parce que j'arrive pas à suivre, c'est un peu-
So the other is
Il y en a 5. Ça, c'est le
contribution of donkey for the national economy. So from our enterprise budget analysis using the simulation model, working donkey contributes to around 2.2 billion USD in 2021, which is 2% of the Ethiopian national GDP, which contributes 70% of the saving of donkey generated through these routes around the homestead activities. So they contribute around 2% of the GDP of Ethiopia in 2021. So even though they are contributing this much, next slide please, they are contributing, I mean, like the population number of these animals are half of the population of draft cattle, but they are contributing 2/3 of the contribution of donkeys. But the animal health investments in this animal are very low. They are receiving around 80% less investment each year than the draft cattle. Next slide. So from our this burden analysis, annually 28% of household income that can be generated by donkey lost by diseases and injuries, and overall burden loss, or each household lost around 160 USD due to injury and disease, which is equivalent to nationally, which is equivalent to 646 million USD annually across Ethiopia. So we are losing a lot of money because of the injuries and the diseases. And most of these diseases are due to preventable diseases like wound, lameness, and donkey disease are mainly due to infectious diseases like anthrax and African horse sickness. So, which can be, for example, lameness contributes for 30% of the loss in a commercial system where donkeys can be used for paid activities or to generate money. So, these losses are mainly due to those problems which are preventable. And the diseases are mostly due to infectious diseases, as I said, anthrax and African horse sickness, and which can be preventable through the existing strategies such as surveillances and vaccination programs. So, GWATs are continuing to build the data so that we enable to help everyone from the farmers to the government level to inform the decision and to have the biggest impact for animal, people, and environment. So we hope that this working groups will be the part of the program so that we can bring more data on the other contexts and we can have more detailed data about how specific diseases and welfare issues impact the people socially and economically. Thank you very much. I would like to say thank you my organization, especially Brooke, the podcast, GWATS, Italy and Liverpool, and my supervisors. Thank you very much.
Merci docteur. Le troisième volet que nous allons aborder, la place des ânes dans les circuits économiques, quelle est leur utilité réelle, quels L'étude de cas au Kenya apportera les éléments
Lui qui venait passer, c'est ça.
concrets, les éléments de réponse concrets.
Bien sûr,
Ça,
pourquoi?
ça.
Our third focus, the role of donkeys in local economies, system,
Il y a ça, là.
what is their actual use, what are the governance challenges, is there proper recognition. A case of study from Kenya will provide practical insight. It will be presented by Dr. James Kituka
Non.
from the University of
On va donner ça
Nairobi.
physiquement.
Sorry.
Physiquement.
Dr. James Kituka de l'Université de Nairobi. Merci de l'ovation.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, my name is James Kivuka. I work for Brook, but I am an adult student at the University of Nairobi, Kenya. And today I will be talking about donkey value chains and just giving Kenya as a case study. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yes, this particular slide, I thought it's good I show you just a snapshot of the African livestock population. And I want you kindly to focus your eyes on the population of donkeys, grouping 44 million. That clearly means that in Africa it is an important resource that policymakers surely should not close their eyes to. Next slide, please. Yes, just a snapshot of the context of how donkeys have a role in livelihoods in the African context. We've been told here by a number of speakers that donkeys really support livelihoods across Africa, particularly in rural areas, down from the Cape Town all the way to Tripoli, to Addis, to Dakar. They contribute a lot to the livelihoods of the rural regions, and more importantly in transport. And transport would come in all manner of shape, form, and format. From transporting anything, you can think of anything, donkeys will be able to transport. But from our study, we've also been able to see that, or to learn that they also contribute to a little bit of agriculture, not necessarily on pulling the plows, but also manure. And we've also been able to realize that their milk, this is not scientifically proven, their milk could also be therapeutic. And therefore, they are also contributing to a number of other things in addition to their traditional role of transport. But now, here comes the aphrodisiac, the Jao Chinese traditional medicine. That is the greatest threat the 44 million donkeys in Africa has ever faced. And so that's a context that anything that we think about, we should actually be able to keep that in mind. But then more importantly, what we've also realized from our study, and many speakers have actually seen that here, is that this animal, despite the 44 million in Africa, it is actually recognized in the policy, despite all the contributions that my previous speakers have actually talked about this animal. Next slide, please. So our study was, this is a bigger study, and what I'm talking about here today is just one of the objectives. But in this specific objective, we had four main objectives for this study. The first one, we really wanted to map out the donkey value chain in Kenya, something that has not been done. Secondly, we wanted to look at governance issues and structures that surround the donkey. And then we also wanted to identify what are the real challenges that face this particular species, and then look at whether there are opportunities that we can
wanted to gather all this information so that we would share with the policymakers, and I am very excited today, just before the conclusion of the study, we have this continental platform to share our findings with key policymakers in many African countries. Next slide, please. Yes, basically the sources. We all know markets are major sources. But the photo that you see there, that donkey was being given out as a dowry to the beautiful young girl that you can see holding the donkey there. So indeed we realized that other than the markets, even dowry, barter trade, charities from either NGOs or individuals, or even just mere gifts are all sources of donkeys that people can be able to access donkeys in Kenya. Next slide, please. Sorry, this slide is a bit congested, and it was by intentional. The intention was basically showing you that the donkey value chain is underdeveloped. It is not developed, and therefore it is not complicated, and we will fit the entire value chain in just one slide. It is not developed. But having said that, allow me to just point out a few things from this slide. I know it has many ones, but we were able to map out various inputs. We were able to see the donkeys, we were able to see the feeds, veterinary services, water, and all the challenges in each of the inputs. Particularly if you see from the donkeys, you will see increased theft. That is what the respondents said. I will not be able to read everything else, but we were also able to see the prices of these particular animals. I can clearly tell you that urban areas, the donkeys would range between $150 to the highest that we were told is about $230. But more importantly, we were also able to map out the outputs. And these outputs, traditionally we all know about transport, but from our study, manure came out strongly. Manure is the, I don't know whether it's a professional language, but it's the donkey poo, the donkey feces. They came out nicely. Donkey milk as a therapeutic thing. Of course, we made recommendations in our study of what we can do with donkey milk. Donkey meat, yes, there are some guys, some communities in Kenya that consume this, but they consume it very responsibly. Our study found out that find whether the word donkey is mentioned. Quite a number of those documents do not even mention the word donkey. 25% of the respondents actually told us even the enforcement is so weak. Don't be surprised to see a level of a boundary wooden donkey passing by the front of a police station, and the police are just looking at it like nothing is really going on. Anyway, 25% of our respondents told us weak enforcement is a problem. The laws that we are using in countries that would relate to the donkey, for example, in Kenya we have about 25 of these laws. All of them are colonial laws. They were just brought in from during the colonial times, adopted in Kenya in 1950s, 60s, and early 70s. That's it. Nothing has ever happened to those particular laws. Inadequate institutional capacities, we know the numbers of veterinary service providers in the field, and that's where problems are. And then absence of formal traceability methods of tracing a donkey. Even if your donkey is stolen and taken anywhere, you don't have a formal way of tracing that particular donkey. And then based on the flowchart that was complicated here, the market structures, either they are in existence or they are so, you get my point. That's the point. The absence, they completely absent. The trade is not formalized, it's not regulated. And that is where all these people take advantage of this particular species. But allow me to quote one of the respondents from Kitui County. That lady was very passionate. When we were still talking about issues to do with policies, he told us, advocating the donkey welfare here is not safe. I don't know why she felt it is not safe. Some people don't like being told what not to do. Take that home. That's what we were taught. When it comes to issues of policy, here, there is that particular motion. Next slide, Mr. Saiwaita. Aspects of gender, this has also been mentioned and discussed, but quickly, we realize that the donkey as an animal is owned by the man. The man rarely goes to fetch water, to fetch firewood. What does that mean? When they quickly want quick money, the animal that they feel best to dispose of is the donkey. Therefore, there's an issue there. And the primary users, we've been told again and again, it's women and children. And therefore, we really need to help women, because we know the role of women in our society, the young, the older, from the future. We really need to develop gender-sensitive policies, incorporate them into our government policy structures and laws and government. And then we also need to empower our women. One of the things that we found out in Kenya of empowering women is diversifying their income streams. And that will also help the debate. Next slide, please. Yes, and we are gathered here as stakeholders. Many things have been told, but briefly from our study, we realized that the stakeholders, all of us, we have a role in advocating for the donkey welfare and particularly the anti-slaughter policy. This photo that you can see there, those women just gathered in front of the office of the cabinet secretary in Kenya with that particular message, and I think that also agreed that they are undervalued. And in Kenya particularly, we've also seen from the flowchart that the value chain is underdeveloped, fragmented, and it is a clear indication of neglect. And therefore, we really need urgent reforms. Finally, we need to develop strong policy supporting and undertaking some particular actions, like be clear in a court of arm of this particular donkey skin trade. Final slide, please. Those are the organizations that supported this study, and we are most grateful to all of them. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for this presentation. Merci pour cette présentation. Pour clore cette session, nous explorons un sujet d'une grande actualité, le rôle des ânes comme soutien vital des communautés africaines en temps de crise, qu'elles soient climatiques, économiques ou humanitaires. Ce sont des animaux de l'extrême, endurants, mobiles, indispensables, là où les autres moyens échouent. Cette présentation sera conduite par Madame Anna-Marie et Dr Shaban Tozo. To close this session, we will explore a topic of high relevance, the role of donkeys as vital assets for African communities in time of crisis, be it climate, economic, or humanitarian. These are extreme animals, resilient, mobile, and essential where other means fail. This presentation will be delivered by Ms. Anna-Marie and Dr. Shaban Tozo. Please welcome them to the
Sa présentation, c'est
stage.
Anne-Marie.
Mesdames et Messieurs, bonjour. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anna Mary. I'm Global Head of Policy and Advocacy at Brooke. It is my great pleasure to introduce this important topic of working donkeys as disaster resilience assets from a global perspective before we dive deeper into perspectives from Tanzania with Dr. Shaban. Next slide, please. Disasters are on the rise. No country and no region is immune. We know that disasters destroy lives and livelihoods, deepen poverty and goods insecurity, and undermine progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals. According to the United Nations, the real cost of disasters is a staggering $2 trillion every year. Working animals such as donkeys, horses, and mules are invisible allies in our fight against disasters. Next slide, please. Brooke and our academic partners have embarked on a multi-year research program to understand the role of those animals in more detail. We found that these animals play a vital role in every stage of the disaster cycle, making communities more resilient pre-disasters, supporting evacuation efforts during the response stage, and rebuilding infrastructure and livelihoods post-disasters. Next, please. So, are they included in global disaster risk reduction policies? Yes, to an extent. They are included in the UN Sendai Framework on Disaster Risk Reduction, and as of last year, thanks to advocacy efforts led by Brooke with our ICRI partners, they are also included in the UN General Assembly Resolution on Disaster Risk Reduction as productive assets that need to be protected. Now, this global recognition needs to be translated into national policy. The Livestock Emergency Guidelines and Standards is a useful internationally recognized tool to help make this happen. Next, please. In national policy, the picture is more mixed. Our study of 6 countries, including Senegal, Ethiopia, and Kenya, has revealed that animals are indeed mentioned in DRR policies, but it's mostly livestock. Only Kenya has direct references to working animals. Communities are generally not aware of those policies, and provisions are usually limited to physical health rather than broader welfare. There is more to be done. Next and last slide, please. On a note of hope, there is a lot of good practice to be shared from to you, Dr. Shepherd.
Allez-y, asseyez-vous. C'est le chef, je ne sais même pas.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Slide, please.
Je ne sais même pas si c'est ça là. Charbonne Tozo,
Oui, c'est ça.
Logistic cost.
Merci
Good
beaucoup.
afternoon.
Merci bien.
I'm presenting this slide on behalf of the
Je suis là.
Director of Service
Docteur,
in the United States.
quelque chose Tozo, hein, quelque chose.
Next. Because there are so many clarifications of any resilience, but the ability of the community to prepare for, respond to, and recover from disasters. And why do we focus on donkeys? Donkeys are often overlooked. Donkey plays essential roles in sustaining livelihood, especially vulnerable regions. Next, please. Donkey, they support in transporting water goods and agricultural produce. They're generating income through labor and trade. They're also enabling access to markets, education, and healthcare. Next. Key roles of donkey in disaster Tanzania. Donkey can navigate the flooded mud in the rugby paths. They are also used to transport food, water, and medical supplies to affected areas where roads may be damaged or inaccessible to vehicles during emergencies. They also work in a remote area, especially in the region of Dodoma, Singida, Arusha, Manyara region, Tanzania. Donkey are often reach places that car or trucks cannot. Next. Donkeys can help in moving people, especially the elderly, children, disabled, or sick individuals who cannot walk long distance during evacuation efforts so far to safe areas. Donkey also are responsible during droughts or after infrastructure damage. Donkey have been used to collect water. Another role of donkey can support the livelihood by enabling people to continue basic trade and transport, especially when fuels and vehicles access are limited. But also in some areas, donkey can become a lifeline to families to build their life after disaster strikes. Next. The case study of donkey in a disaster scenario. As Majuro, this is northern part of Tanzania, donkey were used during COVID-19 pandemics. We are used to fetch water, and this water were used in the dispensaries with soap in order to wash hands for the reason of to stop the spread of COVID-19 viruses. Also, floods and the landslide which occurred in Hanang district, December 2023, which triggered mudslide and floods. About 63 people have died. Also in disaster like heavy rain and flooding which occurred in April 2024. In El Nino, widespread flooding, landslide across Tanzania, 155 deaths, 236 injured, and over 200,000 people in the 51,000 households were affected. Next. I wanted to limit myself in East Africa, but I have also, there is also a case study in Ethiopia where donkey plays a crucial role in the resilience of Ethiopian community in areas limited to motorized vehicles. led by my colleague. They are smuggling to nearby country, especially donkeys from Tanzania. They are moved illegally to nearby country, but also they face skin trade. Also, they lack veterinary care during disasters, high risk of injury, neglect or abandonment. There is a limited recognition in disaster planning and relief aid. Next. Policy gaps and opportunity. There's few disaster risk reduction policies, including working animals, need for inclusion in emergencies, response in the humanitarian frameworks, also potential for integration in early warning and recovery system. Next. We have to integrate donkey disaster planning, supporting animal health services, educate communities on animal welfare during crisis. We have to partner with NGOs working in animal inclusive disaster recovery. Next. Call to action. We have to recognize donkey as frontliners, respondents. We have to advocate for inclusive policies, facilitate fund animal aids as part of disaster resilience. Next. In Tanzania so far, we have banned a donkey slaughter for skin trade since 2017, and this was strengthened by the decision of African Union Committee made during the 44th session of the African Heads of State and Government Summit, February 18, 2024 in Addis Ababa. Also, we shut down the closure of 2 donkey slaughterhouses in 2 regions. In the case of animal welfare, of course, in the Animal Welfare Act number 19 of 2008, it was mentioned donkey as AWS. So our Animal Welfare Act was very exhaustive and comprehensive. It included 2 audience, animal protection and animal pound, based on the 5 universal freedom for animals. Also, we are in the process to review treatment guidelines to include donkey. We are also providing community awareness through television and various social media, and also we participated in the National Donkey Commemoration. But we also need to be strengthened, community awareness. Also, we conducted meetings. This was facilitated by ASPA, which is under the groups. Also, we are doing research on the donkey, and our expectation is to perform or to conduct the donkey identification for the financial year 25-26. Next. So far, during the National Donkey Commemoration, we conducted several activities. In 16th May, first veterinary service provision, and about 400 doctors received veterinary service, such as spraying, hoof trimming, deworming, hoof treatment, multivitamin injection. We also conducted a community awareness to the primary school pupils, three schools, and about 1,695 pupils and 25 teachers received the education concerning the issues of donkey. Next, please. Yeah, and that was the Deputy Permanent Secretary. Of course, he was supposed to be here, but he was appointed on 23rd June as a regional administrative secretary for Dar es Salaam City, and of course, he did not come. And these are some photos, donkeys as a source of income in resilience, stressed community.
organisant une pause déjeuner avant de reprendre à 14h30 pour la session 3. Ladies and gentlemen, session 2 has now come to an end. Thank you to all our speakers for the valuable contributions. We now break for lunch and we will resume at 2:30 sharp with session 3. Thank you. Somebody will be outside to guide you for the lunch. Quelqu'un se tiendra à l'extérieur pour vous donner les orientations pour le déjeuner.